All right, so, stress, right? It gets to all of us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And we're diving into it today. We've got three sources, actually,
Okay.
to try to get a handle on this.
Sounds good.
We've got a Healthline article. It's got like 10 quick tips for stress relief.
Okay.
And then we have a guide from the Mental Health Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And that one really gets into like the causes of stress, and how to like manage it long term.
Right, getting into the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got Mind.
Okay.
And that one's, it's all about building resilience,
Mhm.
like how to really thrive when things are, getting tough.
Yeah, resilience is key, isn't it? Because stress, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
No, definitely not.
What works for one person might not work for another.
So true.
And what helps in one situation might not, be the best in a different one.
Exactly. And I think that's why having all these different sources is so helpful.
Right. A multi-pronged approach is important.
Absolutely. So I thought maybe we could start with like those times when you just need to hit the pause button on stress.
Okay.
Like those moments where you just need a quick fix.
Like in the heat of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Healthline article has like 10 of these quick tips.
Interesting.
And I gotta say, some of them really surprised me.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
curious. What stood out to you?
Well, they had the usual suspects like exercise and sleep,
Sure. The classics.
which, we all know we should be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Easier said than done sometimes.
But one that caught my eye was like listening to nature sounds.
Oh, interesting.
I love a good rainy day playlist,
Mm-hmm.
but I had no idea it could actually like lower blood pressure and cortisol levels.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. You know how connected we are to nature?
Totally.
Those sounds, it's like they tap into something primal,
Right.
calming us down in a way that, like, city noises just don't.
Yeah. There's like a peacefulness to it.
Yeah, shit.
Oh, and then there was this hilarious one. It was like watching Monty Python,
Okay.
specifically the Ministry of Silly Walks sketch.
Oh, I love that one.
I know. Laughter really is the best medicine.
No, there's, actual science behind that.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Laughter, it triggers endorphin release,
Uh-huh.
and endorphins, they act as, like, a mood booster,
Right. Makes you feel good.
and they can actually help to counter those stress hormones.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is a challenge for me personally.
Oh,
Swapping my afternoon coffee for green tea.
interesting.
I'm all about that caffeine kick,
Yeah, I get it.
But they make a good point. Too much caffeine can actually like ramp up your stress response.
It's a vicious cycle. you know.
Yeah.
We reach for caffeine when we're stressed, but then
Mhm.
it can make us even more, jittery and anxious.
Right, like kind of on edge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And green tea, it has less caffeine,
Okay.
and it contains this amino acid called theanine, which has been shown to have, like, calming properties.
So it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. I might have to try that.
Worth a shot.
Okay. And of course, no stress relief list would be complete without the classic deep breathing.
Of course.
I know it seems, a little cliche at this point.
Yeah. It's almost like a given.
But it's rooted in these like centuries-old mindfulness practices for a reason, right?
Deep breathing, it's a really powerful tool for interrupting that fight or flight response.
Right.
It slows your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, and it helps you regain like a sense of control when you're feeling overwhelmed,
Yeah.
But the thing is, with all these quick fixes, they're great for in-the-moment relief,
Yeah.
but they're a bit like putting a Band-Aid on, like a much deeper wound.
You're absolutely right. And that's where I think the Mental Health Foundation guide comes in. It's
Yeah.
like it's encouraging us to go beyond just like managing the symptoms.
Exactly. We need to understand the roots of our stress,
Mhm.
The guide reminds us that stress isn't inherently bad.
Okay.
It's a natural human response.
Mm,
And it's actually helpful in small doses.
really?
Yeah. It's about managing the overload,
Okay.
not, eliminating stress altogether.
So it's more about like finding that balance.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah. There's some truth to that.
Like a little bit of stress can motivate us
Uh-huh.
and it can help us, perform better.
Right. But it's when it becomes chronic and overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it starts to really take its toll.
Yeah. And that toll, like, it can manifest in so many ways, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Both physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Have you ever experienced, like, headaches or muscle tension,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
or digestive issues when you're stressed,
Totally.
or maybe you've felt that mental fog, the constant worrying, like the
Yeah.
inability to focus.
Oh, absolutely. I know, like when I'm stressed, I tend to clench my jaw and I get tension headaches.
Yeah.
And then sleep, forget about it. My mind just like races all night long.
That's so common. And it really highlights the importance of, recognizing your own personal stress response.
Hmm.
What are your telltale signs that stress is starting to take over?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
What do you notice?
I definitely notice the physical tension,
Okay.
the headaches, the sleep disturbances,
Mm.
and mentally, like I get super irritable
Uh-huh.
and I find it really hard to concentrate.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even get that feeling of like just being completely overwhelmed, like I
Mhm.
can't handle one more thing.
Like you're at your limit.
Yeah,
That's all about self-awareness, isn't it?
it really is.
Knowing your own signals is the first step towards managing stress effectively.
So true.
And speaking of managing stress, the Mental Health Foundation also dives into the common causes,
Okay.
many of which might resonate with you, I bet. They talk about work-life balance.
And how, feeling like you're constantly juggling responsibilities
Right.
without much control, that can lead to chronic stress.
Yeah. Especially these days with the lines between work and life getting so blurred, you know?
Oh, yeah, for
It's
sure.
like we're always on and it's exhausting.
It really is. Then there are the financial pressures
Uh-huh.
that so many people are facing,
Yeah.
the rising cost of living, the economic uncertainty.
Yeah,
It's no wonder money worries are a major source of stress.
it's true.
And, let's not forget those temptations that promise a quick escape from stress,
Yeah,
like reaching for another glass of wine.
right. Or that extra cigarette.
Exactly. But as we know, those provide only temporary relief,
Uh-huh.
and often they end up making things worse in the long run.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to a really crucial point that the Mental Health Foundation makes.
Okay.
This idea of compound stressors.
Compound stress?
Yeah. It's not always one big, like, dramatic event that pushes us over the edge.
Yeah.
It's often the accumulation of many smaller stresses
Oh,
that just keep piling up,
Right. It's like, yeah, maybe missing your train isn't like a huge deal on its own.
Right.
But when it happens after like a night of tossing and turning
Yeah.
and a morning of like back-to-back meetings,
Uh-huh.
suddenly it feels like the world is ending, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that straw that breaks the camel's back.
Right.
All those small stresses, they just build up,
Mm-hmm.
and before you know it, you're completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So paying attention to those seemingly minor stressors
Okay.
and finding ways to manage them before they reach like a boiling point,
Right.
that's crucial.
So it's not just about like reacting when things are bad.
No,
It's also about building those habits and routines that help us kind of stay ahead of the curve.
exactly. Proactive stress management.
Yeah. And speaking of being proactive, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about resilience.
Okay.
Our third source for mind, it goes beyond just coping with stress. It's about learning to thrive even in the face of challenges.
I like that.
Right.
And what I think is so fascinating about Mind's approach
Yeah.
is that they acknowledge that resilience isn't a level playing field.
Okay.
They bring up systemic barriers,
Uh-huh.
pointing out that things like poverty,
Hmm.
lack of support discrimination,
Right.
these can make it much harder for some people to cope with stress.
It's true. It's like we can't just tell everyone to be more resilient
Right.
without acknowledging that some people are facing like much steeper uphill battles.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
not a fair comparison.
Right.
And they even include a quote from someone
Oh, wow.
who talks about the toll that racism has taken on their mental health.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that chronic stress isn't always a purely individual issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a reflection of the systemic inequalities and injustices that people face every single day.
It makes you think about how important it is to address those systemic issues, you know?
Yeah.
Not just for the sake of individual well-being,
Right?
but also for the health of society as a whole.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Creating a more just and equitable society
Mm-hmm.
would go a long way in reducing stress levels for everyone.
Totally. Now, mine offers a bunch of tips for building resilience.
Okay.
And I'm curious to know what resonated with you,
Mm-hmm.
what felt particularly actionable.
Well, I was really struck by their take on time management,
Okay.
but it's not about cramming more into your schedule.
Right.
It's about being intentional with your time
Huh?
and prioritizing what truly matters to you.
So it's not about doing more. It's
Yeah.
about doing what's important.
Exactly.
Right, like that.
It's about aligning your actions with your values,
Mm-hmm.
That way, even if you're busy, you're spending your time on things that are meaningful and fulfilling,
Yeah.
which can make a huge difference in how you experience stress.
What else stood out to you from Mind's Resilience Toolkit?
Well, they also talk about the importance of identifying your personal stress triggers.
Oh, okay.
It's about knowing your own patterns
Right.
and being proactive, even if you can't control the situation.
Okay.
Simply knowing what tends to set you off can help you prepare and cope more effectively.
So it's kind of like having a stress forecast.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, I know that traffic jams tend to make me spiral,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to leave extra early today or have a calming podcast queued up.
Exactly. Have a plan.
Right.
Build those coping mechanisms in advance.
Yeah.
And speaking of coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
Mind also emphasizes the importance of building a strong support network.
Okay.
They remind us that we don't have to go through this alone.
Right.
Talking to friends, family, colleagues
Mm-hmm.
about what you're going through can be incredibly helpful.
It's true. And that ties back to what we were saying earlier about empathy
Yes.
and the shared human experience of stress.
Exactly. We're all in this together.
Even just listening to this deep dive,
Mm.
we're engaging in a form of shared experience,
That's right.
learning from each other, and hopefully feeling a little less alone
I love
in our
that.
struggle.
It's like we're creating a mini stress-busting community right here.
Yeah.
And that sense of community and connection, that's
Mhm.
so crucial for resilience.
Absolutely. And Mind reminds us that even small acts of self-care can make a big difference.
Little things matter.
It's not about grand gestures.
No.
It's about finding those little things that help you recharge and feel good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a hot bath, a walk in nature, or even just 10 minutes of reading a good book.
Anything that helps you unwind.
Right.
It's about giving yourself permission to prioritize your well-being,
Mm-hmm.
even in small ways. Recognizing that you deserve to feel good
Yeah.
and taking those steps, however tiny, to make that happen.
You know, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From quick fixes to understanding those deeper causes of stress to building resilience and tapping into the power of community.
It's amazing how interconnected it all is.
It really is.
It all circles back to that initial point,
Yeah.
Stress is a multifaceted experience,
Yeah.
and managing it effectively requires a multifaceted approach.
It makes sense.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution,
Right.
and what works for one person might not work for another.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Building your toolkit of strategies and recognizing that stress management is an ongoing journey.
Right.
It's not a destination.
Yeah, it's not about like reaching some mythical stress-free state.
No.
It's more about learning to like navigate the ups and downs
Yeah.
with, more awareness,
Mm.
resilience, and maybe even a little bit of grace.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really empowering message, actually.
It is.
It means that even though we can't control everything that happens,
Right.
we can control how we respond.
Yeah.
We have the power to, build our resilience,
Yeah.
to cultivate those coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
and to create a life that feels more manageable.
Yeah. Even amidst like all the chaos.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's bring it back to you, the listener.
Okay.
Think about all the tips and insights we've gone over today.
Mm-hmm.
From those quick fixes to, the deeper causes of stress,
Mm-hmm.
the strategies for building resilience. What resonated with you the most?
Yeah. What felt like particularly relevant to your own experience.
Right. And building on that, remember, Mind encouraged us to think about community action.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sometimes stress isn't just a personal issue, right?
No.
It can be a reflection of like bigger societal issues.
That's true.
So could taking action like in your community help?
Potentially.
Whether it's, advocating for better resources or
Mhm.
just connecting with others who get it.
Right. Who understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could that be a step towards feeling more like empowered and in control?
I think so. It highlights the ripple effect of our actions.
Yeah.
When we take care of ourselves,
Right.
we're also more equipped to take care of others
It's true.
and to contribute to, a more supportive world.
A less stressful world.
Exactly.
So this deep dive, it's really just a starting point, right?
It is.
We encourage you to like explore those resources,
Mhm.
experiment with different strategies, and find what works best for you.
And as you embark on that journey,
Mm.
the journey of stress management, remember to be kind to yourself.
Oh, yeah. That's so important.
It's a process, not, about being perfect.
Right.
There will be good days and bad days.
Exactly.
The important thing is to keep learning, keep growing,
Mm-hmm.
and keep reaching out for support when you need it.
Yeah. And remember, even small steps in the right direction can make a big difference.
Absolutely. To our listeners, we say this.
Mm.
May you find moments of calm amidst the chaos,
Yes.
strength in the face of challenges, and the support you need to navigate those ups and downs.
Beautifully said. And until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay well.